So explain exactly what he's trying to say here, Alex.
The Trump administration thinks that the tax cuts and the additional federal spending that the president has signed into law in the last couple months will raise wages without affecting broader inflation. That is kind of contrary to standard economic policy, and it's also contrary to things we're seeing in the markets these days. Investors right now are already getting a little nervous that prices may be rising as a result of some of these policies.
Is there a sense that the White House is quite nervous that perhaps inflationary pressure? Okay, yeah. Alex.
Yeah, I don't think the White House is nervous about that to any great extent. They haven't expressed that publicly, and they certainly aren't doing anything so far to restrain spending. Although I should add that in their budget that they released in a couple of weeks ago, the president's budget is really just kind of an aspirational document. It's not actually policy. They proposed some deficit cutting in the future. And that may be in the budget out of some concern that the spending increases over the last couple of months could lead to some inflation.
Alex, aside from go ahead, Yvonne.
No, I was going to ask Alex, I mean, it seems like the president, though, every time the markets are up or at records, I mean, he is very keen on tweeting about it and patting himself on the back. So when markets are down, is this kind of his call to his cheerleaders to actually kind of tame things down a bit?
Yeah, it's sort of weird that he hasn't tweeted much about markets lately, isn't it? I think this is kind of a way of the Treasury Secretary trying to talk up markets a little bit or push back against this sense in markets that some of these policies might have a downside. Yes.
It's interesting. The big question that this is the story that we just had on the Mnuchin interview that's still unanswered is that whether businesses will actually raise prices to cover the added labor costs. We're still not sure about that debate as well.
Yeah, labor costs are rising. We know that. Wages are rising, not super rapidly, but certainly more than we've seen in the past really decades since the financial crisis. The question, normally companies would have to raise prices to pay for those higher labor costs. But, in this case, profits by U.S. companies have been growing a lot over the last few years without any real increase in wage growth. So this could be, I suppose, wages kind of catching up with profit growth, and in that case, companies might think they don't have room to raise prices. That the economy is competitive enough they can't demand higher prices from consumers. In which case, maybe wages will go up without prices going up. But that's yet to be determined.
Just Alex, talk to us about. I mean, it was a more wide-ranging interview. Tell us what other topics the Treasury Secretary touched upon.
Yeah, it's, he talked a lot about the economy with us and his view of some markers on the economy. We did ask him about foreign investment in U.S. Treasury bonds. There's the people who are buying bonds these days, and not just today, but in the past, have comprised a lot of foreign investors. And you might think that under an America First agenda, such as the president's, there would be concern that more bonds aren't sold domestically. But the Treasury Secretary said that is not a concern.